Welcome back to the Tea with Jade B. I'm so sorry about last week. I don't know if Mercury's in retrograde. I recorded 2 episodes. Both didn't record. So maybe that is a sign from God to be like, Jade, put the mic down. People probably don't need to be hearing what you have to say. But the thing about me is that I'm a stubborn bitch. So we're continuing to be here. I have a flight. Nothing like leaving something to the last minute. I remember last night I was like not really feeling well. I was like, I'll record a podcast tomorrow. And then tomorrow happens. And of course, I'm leaving everything to the last fucking minute. But that's the tea with Jade B. She's just Jader Bader, the procrastinator. Let me turn this down so I'm not like screaming in your freaking ear. Okay. What did I do this weekend? I actually had the most perfect weekend ever. We had a fun-filled weekend. I feel like we're really hitting our stride in Austin. For me, like, I know some of our friends, they kind of came out of the gates and were like, we are making Austin home. And for some reason for me, like I had this resistance to making Austin my home. Not like resistance, but I wasn't like, it always felt so temporary. I'm like always like, where am I going next? But like, I finally feel now like I can just be in Austin. And we had some friends over this weekend. It was so much fun. I had my first spritz of the season. And we had like a little wellness day. And so Mr. Roberts and his guy friends, like it's giving, I told you last week, it's Goggins adjacent. Like they were all cold plunging and saunaing. And it sounds much douchier than it is because all of these guys are like super cool guys. And they're not like douchey. And my tolerance for men is so low. Like if a man steps out 1 inch, I'm like, I just can't. Like, I'm not going to do this with you. If they like say something weird, I'm not going to do this with you. But I have to say, I love all the girls. All the girls are 10 out of 10 obsessed. But like, I'm actually surprised at how much I like the guys that we hang out with because usually there's like a couple bad eggs. You know, there's like that one guy that you have to hang out with because you like his wife. I genuinely like everyone that I'm surrounding myself with. And one of the things I think is really cool is like, for me, I'm like on social media. Like that is my job. I'm trying to get this podcast off the ground, which can be like cringe. Like it's really not easy to put yourself out there in that way. Personally, for me, I think I'm at the tail end of my 30s. I kind of don't give a fuck anymore. And I see the end vision. And so if you don't see the end vision, then I truly don't care. In my 20s, I did care. I had a YouTube channel called Drinks with Jade. And it was actually such a cute idea. I would make drinks or make food and I would talk about different Bravo shows. And my family was like, this is so embarrassing. Like, take this down. And I listened to them, which I wish I didn't because that's like so not my personality now. My personality now would be like, you guys don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Like my dad, you're in construction. My mom, you're in retail. Like if I'm going to take anyone's advice on how to start a YouTube channel, it's not yours, you know? But all that to say, I have been in groups of people where they're like, oh, how's your little podcast? How is it? How's your Instagram? You know? And it's just like, they are probably talking shit behind your back, which is fine. Like, please, I've said this before. I'll say it again. Please, I prefer you to talk shit behind my back, not to my face. Unless it's constructive. But if you're just being like, oh my God, that's cringy. Like that's not constructive. That can be behind my back. But like everyone here genuinely has an interest in what I'm doing. And like, I think we all are kind of in the same orbit. Like we have a lot of CPG people, consumer packaged goods people, and like a lot of creators and there's like a Venn diagram. Like a lot of these people have built their businesses from social media. So they see the value of what I'm doing. And I think it's cool. Personally for me, like I love hearing what other creators do. I don't care what size you are, if you have millions of followers or if you have like 1,000 followers. I want to know your creative process because creating is creating. It's a very equal thing. Just because someone is more successful than you doesn't mean they know more than you. And so I feel like that's the vibe of this group. Like everyone takes everyone's thing very seriously. And I really appreciate that because I feel like a lot of people don't have that. And the vibes are high. Like they were, personally for me, the vibes were kind of low last year for myself. Like I was just so fucking hard on myself. I was like, oh my God, you're such a loser. All your friends are like doing this. And like, I think I was just stuck in the middle of like two different worlds, you know, like I'm 36. So either all my friends are like on their second or third kid, they're on their second or third home. They like have an established life for themselves. They've climbed the corporate ladder. Or I'm like stuck on this other like entrepreneur side of my life with like Nick and his friends where they've all like, I'm in the trenches right now and they were in the trenches like 7 years ago. So they are like, I can't compare my start to their middle. You know what I mean? So I feel like I was just like, I was having like an identity crisis and I didn't know who I wanted to be. And I was also comparing myself to other people's successes, quote unquote. So it's kind of nice to kind of feel like I've got like my stride going again, you know? And speaking of Nick and CPG, I am headed to, as a foodie, this is like my freaking Super Bowl. I'm so excited. I've been wanting to go to this forever, but I'm going to Expo West. And if you don't know what Expo West is, it's like the Super Bowl for consumer packaged goods. So like anything you see in the grocery store. So Nick is going to be there with Treff. We have a ton of other friends that are going. The Bloom guy and girl are going. Super Coffee guys are going. Our friend Alex and Harrison are going to be there with Harrison's company Flock, which is like chicken strips. So like instead of like a pork rind, it's like a chicken rind kind of. They're so delicious. You can get them at Buc-ee's. I always get them when we're traveling. And who else is going to be there? Our friend Andrew is going to be there. Like we just have so many friends, and Nick knows so many people in the industry. So it's going to be really fun. And I was debating whether I was going to go because imposter syndrome. I was like, well, I don't want to take up a space at this show for like no reason. And Nick's like, no, you need to like go and say hi to these brands that you always talk about on the internet. Like show face, it'll mean a lot. Like you're a fan of these brands, you promote them all the time. You should go say hi. So I am so appreciative that I have a partner that's just like, no, like go get it. Like, let's do it. How do we help you? And like him helping me get there. It's just very good time. So I'm really excited. I'm going to get some training sessions in with my friend Ashley and our trainer, which by the way, I've said this so many times and you guys are probably like, geez, do you really have to say this every single fucking podcast episode? But I wish Austin had the same mindset around group fitness and training the way Orange County does. I mean, Orange County is the best of the best. Like, there's so much talent in Austin that I don't know why it's not being like taken advantage of. For example, like in Costa Mesa, there's so many little private gyms that people train out of. And so there's so much talent there. And am I making sense? I took like a mushroom and a keto shot and these new ADHD pills that are like working overtime. But like there's so many trainers that it's so much more accessible. For like I'm training with Ashley's trainer for $30 a session. All the personal trainers I know of in Austin are like $200 a session. It's so like inaccessible. Who can afford going to a trainer for $200 a fucking session? That's how much I pay for my gym in Austin. And again, he is the best. If you're interested in weightlifting, the thing that got me into weightlifting was group fitness classes. I know a lot of people like the at-home workouts, but for me, I don't have the equipment. And I also don't like going to a gym and working out on my own. I just feel like I always give up and I'm looking at the time and I just feel like so anxious when I'm doing it by myself. And I really like the group fitness class because I show up, someone's telling me what to do. I have an hour. Like I'm booked for an hour. When I'm at the gym for like whatever reason, like me booking myself for an hour at the gym, I'm constantly being tethered back to work. But when I'm in the group fitness class, it's not like that. And I just got a notification from Southwest. My freaking boarding group right now is C25. So that should be fun. I'm going to check my bag. But let's get into some tea very quickly. My friend Meg's going to pick me up in 15 minutes for the airport. Like I said, we're just really right in fast and dirty here. Okay, so the big news that I thought was interesting this week was Earle and Alex Cooper and the word dropped. Okay, so Earle was on Alex Cooper's network, Unwell. She had a podcast, or I guess has a podcast, Hot Mess, and there was an article that just came out in Vanity Fair or Variety, and it said Alex Cooper's Unwell network drops Earle's. It's so confusing with the Alex's. Earle's podcast, Hot Mess. So the thing that I think everyone's kind of fixating on there is the dropped. And I've seen some people that are like, oh, there's nothing there. It's just like an article. Like it's all like, it's not bad, whatever. But the dropped is making me think that like there's something there. Like there is, if it was an amicable situation, I don't think they would use the word dropped. Like dropped makes it sound like the podcast wasn't successful. Like they couldn't hang on to this podcast anymore. It's dropped. Like if it wasn't a negative thing, they would put out a press release saying like they part ways. But I feel like Alex Cooper is trying to get ahead of it. And now I think this is going to work against Alex Cooper because the rumblings on TikTok, it just feels like people are waiting for a reason to quote unquote cancel Alex Cooper, because the problem with the internet is we love to see somebody go from zero to fucking hero. We love building these people up, especially women. But once they get too high and once they're showing that they're like out of our orbit or our perceived orbit, then they want to like just take them down. So I feel like that's kind of what's going on with Alex Cooper right now. And I feel like the internet, for whatever reason, like we haven't perceived Earle to be out of our orbit yet, because she's still like her home base is TikTok. So we're like, oh, she's our girl, you know? So I feel like this is just the straw that broke the camel's back with the internet, or it might be, especially because Earle the other day on her TikTok, the only thing she really said about this whole situation was that she was just as shocked as us about the news. So that also kind of gives Earle the leeway to kind of start to play the victim with this whole thing. So I don't know. It'll be really interesting to see how this shakes out. People are saying that they don't think these two will speak on it. I absolutely think these two will speak on it. Like, especially Earle. I feel like Earle, the reason why we like her is that she always shows up on the internet, and she does a really good job at explaining internet drama in a very, like, without hyping it up more. Like, she doesn't, especially with like her and Xandra, like that could have been blown out into like a way bigger deal. But like those two, I think, did a pretty good job at just keeping it like as tame as they could have. You know, of course the internet has to be the internet, but I thought they did a pretty good job. Okay, another thing. Where the fuck is Taylor Swift? I am tired of waiting for Reputation. I miss the Eras tour. I miss watching my grainy little live streams every night. I miss seeing what surprise song she picked and trying to figure out like what it means. Where is Taylor? And do we think that Taylor has been a little quiet because of the Blake Lively thing? Which, that would really fucking suck. If like, let's say she had this whole Reputation thing planned and then Blake Lively just and the whole Justin Baldoni lawsuit, like that ruined. Can you imagine how mad the Swifties would be at Blake and Justin? You know, I think I just had this just popped into my head. Okay, so bear with me. This might not be a clear thought. I think that the only way that Blake could get back on top of this whole lawsuit thing, which you guys know where I stand. I'm neither Team Blake nor Team Baldoni, but I do lean towards the woman saying that she was sexually harassed. I'm going to believe her until I have no reason left to believe her. But I think that if they could prove that Justin Baldoni interfered with like some sort of Taylor Swift album drop, the Swifties would lose their fucking mind. And that would be the shift to get the internet off of Justin Baldoni's dick. Because I don't understand why everyone is so obsessed with this man. Like, to me, he's just kind of like a neutral figure. But I don't know why the internet, like, does the internet just hate Blake more than they like Justin? Because they're so obsessed with this guy. I need a sip. I got Starbucks today, which I normally don't do, but hold on one second. So Nick is the co-founder of Truff, as you guys may or may not know. I don't know. Do I talk about that? I'm worried about making that like my personality. But okay, so Nick is the co-founder of Truff, and they are now in every single Starbucks nationwide. They have Truff packets complimentary with your meal, which is so fucking exciting. So if you've ever wanted to try Truff, but you're like, I don't know if I can spend, whatever on a bottle of hot sauce, this is the perfect time to try Truff. And it's also just so cool because I don't know if they talk about this enough. I feel like they should. But these two guys came up with the Truff recipe on their own in Nick's co-founder's parents' kitchen. Like, they didn't go to a formula person to make this formula for their original hot sauce. They came up with that themselves. So this is literally their baby. And I can't imagine the feeling of, they've had so many huge wins throughout their career, like people using the Truff hot sauce or like celebrities investing in the Truff hot sauce, but seeing it in every single Starbucks for free, like you could just go there and get it with your egg white bites. That's like the coolest fucking thing ever. And I'm so proud of them. And I think one thing I love about Nick is like it never gets old, but he also doesn't let it get to his head. Like every single win is like a cool win, but it's not like, oh my God, like, a lot of people in this industry can be a little cappy and they can be a little bit like doing it for the wrong reasons. And I feel like they really just love creating things that people enjoy and like marketing it. And they're just like in love with the whole process of it. So it's super cool to see them and like their successes. Okay, let's see here. Okay, I wanted to talk about my ADHD a little bit because I made a video the other day and people had a lot of questions because I was talking about microdosing mushrooms. So I wanted to kind of go through my journey with ADHD. So as far as I know, you're born with ADHD. I don't really know how it develops in somebody's brain. But I was always like a little different. Like I was always hyper creative. I always felt like my brain wasn't working the right way at school. Like I felt like other people could kind of get their work done a little easier than me. Like a task for me felt so different than a task for my peers. But I was also like pretty smart. Like I was always getting good grades and stuff, but it was just like I felt like I was constantly having to work against my brain. And if you have ADHD, that is a very common feeling. I feel like this world is not built for like an ADHD brain. So it feels like society, like the society that we're living in, you're constantly having to work against your brain instead of working with your brain. And once I got into more creative fields, it was easier for me to work with my brain, but I still have a lot of challenges. But I got diagnosed with ADHD I want to say when I was 14. And so I went to the psychologist, I did a bunch of tests, and he was like, yep, you have ADHD. But I think especially back then, that was like mid 2000s, it was like, there was not as much around the ADHD conversation. It was like, oh, you are ADHD, so you are on medication. It wasn't like you are on ADHD, so let's figure out some ways that you can improve, like little processes that you can use to help you be a more productive person and work with your brain instead of just like working against your brain. And I feel like the medicine, just slapping medicine on there, it was just a Band-Aid. Like yeah, my brain worked a little better, but like I still wasn't automatically just like the most productive person in the world. I was productive with some things, but not everything. And so my first Adderall prescription was, I want to say 10 milligrams twice a day. And I think at first he had me taking like half of that. So just to like ease into it. And Adderall is a like fucking meth in a different font if you really want to get into it. It is a very controlled substance. And so I kind of built my tolerance up to like around 20 milligrams twice a day. I tried the extended release, but it was let's see. I tried the extended release, but I did not like the extended release. It kind of felt like once you're on that ride, you can't get off of it. And I liked being able to take the medicine in the morning. And if I didn't need it in the afternoon, I didn't want to be on it. And now, if you've never been on Adderall, I can't speak to, I've taken like Vyvanse before, but I'd always been prescribed Adderall. It is a fucking stimulant. And the way these medications work is they use all of your dopamine. So they kind of front load your dopamine at the beginning of the day. And so by the end of the day, you're kind of left with a depleted dopamine reserve, which sometimes can result in these like things that I like to call, and I think other people call them Adderall come downs. And it just feels like your brain is just like, it's tired. You feel like shit. Emotionally, you feel like shit. You kind of feel a little depressed. My eyes, I would always feel like my eyes were just like hurting, especially because I was like sitting looking at a screen all day too. That didn't help. But the older I got, the more the Adderall come downs kind of started to affect me. So I went to college and I kind of learned, and in high school, I didn't really know anyone that was on Adderall, and I was embarrassed to take Adderall. I remember being like really quiet about it. I lost a little bit of weight when I first got on it because like you're fucking meth. Like you're not eating, you're not hungry. And it wasn't like I lost a ton of weight, but I lost like, maybe 5 or 7 pounds, and I'm 5'3", so that's like a significant amount of weight. And I remember people being like, Jade has an eating disorder. And I was like, no, I'm just on fucking Adderall. Okay. So when I got to college, I met a lot of people who were on Adderall, and everyone was talking about Adderall. And if we're being honest, like I think a lot of people were probably not needing to be on Adderall. And I never abused my Adderall and went out with it. I don't think I ever took Adderall once to party. Maybe I took it in the morning to like help me get through a hangover, but I never took it to go out and party on. And I think maybe some people were, I don't know, people weren't doing it in front of me, so I don't know. But I did experience people in my close orbit that had, I'm going to be careful how I say this, I guess, a problem with Adderall. Like they were addicted to Adderall. Literally, they had to get treatment for it. So that going into my professional work career was always in the back of my mind, but I always had these doctors and psychologists saying, you cannot be addicted to Adderall because your brain needs it. That was what my psychologist would say. And I was like, I just don't want to get on too high of a dose because I don't want to like abuse it or whatever. And he said, you can't abuse it because your brain needs it. And I was like, that doesn't make any fucking sense whatsoever, but whatever, you're a doctor, I'm not. So it always just felt like, what am I going to do? Like after this, like, am I going to be on this medicine for the rest of my life? Like I literally have to take Adderall to clean. I have to take Adderall to get shit done. I have to take Adderall to do pretty much anything. And it felt very like I felt trapped, but I also felt like I had to do what I had to do. And once 2020 rolled around, it got harder to get into the doctor and get my prescription filled. So I was like, you know what? Let me just hold off until this whole 2020 thing and COVID goes away. And then maybe I'll reevaluate my situation with Adderall. And once I got off of it, I was like, why am I on this thing? Like I am not, at some point I'm like not more productive. I'm just like taking this thing every single day. And I know some people need it. So I'm just speaking to my own experience with it. And it's hard. I don't like qualifying things like that because I do think that Adderall is not a perfect drug. Like it's not good for everyone. And I am not afraid to say that. Like I've had friends who have had very, very serious problems with Adderall. Now, I got off of it and I didn't consult a doctor, which I don't recommend. I think that you should probably talk to somebody and help wean you off of it. But I didn't have any issues with my brain. But it left me with like, how the fuck do I work with this brain? Like I've only been using this brain on a stimulant for the last fucking 16 years of my life. So I had to come up with some processes, and I'm going to share what I found works for me. And I also think that it's really cool now that like we know more about ADHD and the ADHD brain, and there's a bunch of different ways you can work with your brain now, which in the past that wasn't always the case. So things that have helped me were my routine. Doing the same thing every single morning, it helps me so much because every day is going to look different for you, but like having a morning routine and a night routine is so significant. It has helped my ADHD and my clarity so much. Okay, eating. I like to meal prep my meals, so it takes like the decision overload out of there. Like I would spin out for an hour each day trying to figure out what I was going to make for lunch, what I was going to order for lunch, and just having my meal prep meals with nice, healthy food. It just took all the decision overload away from me, and it helped my days so much. I also think there's a lot to diet and ADHD because I think our brain is linked to our gut. And I think taking care of your gut health is so important. Okay, next, exercise. Exercise has helped my ADHD like no other. Moving my body every single day has helped me, but I know it's really hard when you have ADHD to like find like to complete a task. Like for me, my ADHD is like, okay, I know I have to do this thing, but I don't know where to start. So what I would do is I joined a gym and I just made myself go every day at this time. And I told myself, you just need to get into the parking lot. Once you get to the parking lot, you need to go sit in the class. And even if you don't do the entire class, just get there and see what happens. And obviously every time you're in the class, you're just going to fucking do it because it's awkward to walk out of it. So that just built up this habit. And then it became like not even a question. I just went to the gym. I started taking the class, and then that was my routine. And I think like finding a way to put your brain on autopilot, like don't make it hard on yourself. Don't start something that you know you're not going to be able to do. Like for example, don't get a gym membership knowing that it's going to be hard for you to make yourself go to the gym. That's why I don't fuck with gym memberships. It just doesn't work for me. Group fitness classes are really the only way that I get my workout in. And that's just something I know about myself. So that's that. To-do list for everything. So at the beginning of each day, I write down what I need to get done. And instead of just having like a running list of a to-do list, I have to write it down every single day so my brain sees what I have to do. And something about putting like the pen to paper, it's just different. Like I try to do the notes thing. I'm way less efficient when I do the notes thing. So I don't know. That's just what works for me. I even do this when I'm cleaning. Like I'll break it up into sections. So I'll do like kitchen, and I'll do counters, floor, whatever I need to get done, and I will cross it off. And for whatever reason, it's just easier for my brain to see it like that instead of just like clean the kitchen. If you just tell me to clean the kitchen, then it's super overwhelming to my brain because I'm like, well, where the fuck do I start? And then I'll start cleaning the counter, and then I'll start cleaning the floor, and like I'll leave a bunch of tasks half done. So like the to-do list, a specific to-do list really, really helps me. And this next one, this is the number one thing that has helped my ADHD, I think. All of these are the number one thing, but this thing has truly the most life-changing thing for my ADHD is the purge. I think you should get rid of everything that does not have a place in your house. And I am the kind of person who holds on to a bunch of shit just for sentimental values. Like, oh, my mom bought me this shirt, so I need to keep it until the end of time. But once I got that out of my head and I just started purging and keeping the things that I need, keeping the things I use, finding a spot for everything, my life is so much easier. Right now, I need to go through and do a purge. My bathroom is a fucking disaster. I have so much makeup everywhere. So that is one thing. Like, I think like clean spaces equal clean minds. And I think that will help you so much more than you even realize. Like once that your messy space, because I know if you're ADHD, you probably have a hard time cleaning up your shit. Once that is taken off the table, your life is just so much easier. So basically the thing, like the overall theme here is I try to do things that are working with my brain, like making it easy on myself, going to a workout class, not trying to force myself to go to the gym. I know my limitations with my brain and what I'm going to do, and I can make it to the gym every single day if somebody else is telling me what to do. Also, Meg's here. Okay, we can pick this up later. I was just rambling at that point, but please make sure you like, subscribe, share this, send me some questions, and I will see you next week.